Hello, fellow star people. How are you? You're watching EarthSky. I'm Deborah Byrd. My fellow OG stargazer, John Goss, will be joining us shortly. John and I have a combined 100 years of night sky experience. But first, this. Oh, there we go. Okay, so this blue crater here is actually on red Mars, and I'm showing it to you because researchers at Imperial College London and the University of Bern in Switzerland have found out that meteorites strike the surface of Mars about twice as often as we thought. So, kaboom! And many of these strikes leave craters like this one. And the researchers used artificial intelligence or AI to identify the new impact craters in tens of thousands of orbital images captured by the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter. And so it stands to reason that if Mars is struck twice as often as we thought, Earth might be too, except for the fact that Earth's atmosphere is much thicker than the atmosphere of Mars. So small meteorites coming into our atmosphere burn up. So that's another reason to be grateful to Earth's atmosphere. So let's get John out here. There he is. Hey, John. Hi.
Hi, Deborah. Hi, Deborah. Thanks for having me on board. I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah, so what do you say? February 2025, good month for stargazing?
February is a great month, especially this year, in which we'll be talking about exactly why. Remember that you have to dress warmly, but go outside and you'll see some really good stuff. February is a great time.
Okay, but this year in particular is a great time, correct?
Yes, yes. February skies generally have a lot of bright stars, but we're going to be talking about bright planets. And the bright planets are much brighter than the bright stars.
Okay.
Tonight, or any night real soon. I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah. So the
Y-
planets. So that was a big thing last month. So last month we had the all of the memes and videos and things that we saw about a planetary alignment on January 25th. And you and I were here a month ago talking about what that word alignment really
Exactly.
meant. And
Exactly.
now we're having uh, I'm hearing news that there's a planetary alignment on February 28th. So
Yes.
so what's the deal? Because this chart says early February,
Yes.
and so
Yes.
these planets look like they're in a line to me. So what's going on here?
Well, there's a lot to this, and a lot of it depends on what you consider and how you look at it. The chart you have there shows four bright planets in our evening sky right now over the next few days. Saturn, of course, Venus is by far the brightest, and you have bright Jupiter and Mars as well. But these things change, and the planets are always moving in the sky. So by the time the end of the month arrives, we'll see a little bit different scene, but not too much different than this. You'll see what we're talking about in just a moment.
Okay. So it we got this chart, and this came from Travel Republic in the UK.
Yes.
And I thought it was interesting because they were talking about the increase in searches on things having to do with stargazing, uh, planetary alignment, stargazing. So search increases for most popular places to stargaze around the world. Um, Turned out like this. So there was like a 400% increase in people searching for Elon Valley Estate in Wales in the United
Right.
Kingdom, which is a dark sky park and a great place to stargaze. So let's talk about that, John. Like, you said that there's planets in the evening sky, and and we're hearing that word alignment thrown around again. So what does that mean? the word alignment.
Alignment.
And why are people talking about alignments?
When I talk about alignment, I generally mean things placed all neatly in a row. You get with the planets, you'd have Mercury, then Venus, and Earth, and Mars, and so on, all stretched out in a line. The diagram we have here shows more of a three-dimensional view of looking down from the far north above our solar system down on us. And you'll see it's divided into two parts. The left-hand side talks about the inner solar system. Are the planets in a line? Well, not really. Kind of, maybe.
Kind of in a line.
Okay, but on the right, we have the outer solar system. You can see where Earth's orbit is, really hugging the sun right in the center. So we're talking about the far reaches of our solar system. Are they in alignment? Well, not really. They're all kind of on the, from my angle, on the left-hand side of the sun. But that's about as much of alignment as I'm going to give it. So kind of.
So why then? Let's go back to this chart. Why do people use that word alignment? Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, well, I started out by saying, they're all in a line. You got the planets all in a row. And tonight you'll see Saturn close to the horizon, a little bit above it, bright Venus, and then Jupiter and Mars. So they are, if you go out and look in the sky from horizon to horizon, they will appear in a line, those four planets. So that's a sort of alignment.
Yeah, so we just asked people to do something that's really, really hard to do, and that is to flip their perspective from thinking of the sky as a dome, and that's what we're looking at right now. We're looking at the sky as if it's a dome, and we're drawing a line between these four planets, or thinking of space in 3 dimensions, which is this other chart that we showed right here. So there we have
more
sort of
three-dimensional.
It's still, it's more of the 3-dimensional view because here we're looking from the top down. So in the sense that the planets are, crossing the sky on the same path that the sun crosses the sky, that's kind of a line, right? When the sun goes from east to west every day. And so I think that's where that confusion over the word alignment comes from. The planets are always on that line somewhere because
always.
Our solar system is a flat plane. And so when we're looking out into 3-dimensional space and seeing 3-dimensional space on our 2-dimensional dome of sky, it looks as if they're all along a line.
They are. Yeah, they're always in a line, just as you said. But the sun's in the way a lot of the time. So it's not a big deal, at least in people's minds, it's not a big deal. But the truth is, they're always in a line some way or other.
Yeah. And so when people hear that word alignment, it may not mean what you think it means. It's like they're always, so we want to leave you with that message that they're always in a line somewhere in the sky because they travel along the same path that the sun and moon travel along. But they're not in a line in the sense of 3-dimensional space, as you can see from this diagram that we're showing you right here. But they're still very, very cool.
They are.
Let's look at some of the planets. So we just want to show this picture of Jupiter. These spacecraft images of Jupiter are so much better than they used to be. Of course, Jupiter's the biggest planet in our solar system. So what have we got here, John?
Well, over the next couple of nights, tomorrow night from our time right now, the moon will be next to the very delicate and pretty Pleiades star cluster. And far over to the left of the moon, you'll see nice bright Jupiter, as you were just saying, the largest planet in the solar system. It is so large that all the other planets could be stuffed inside of it, and there'd be plenty of room left over for rattling around. It's really the king of planets.
Yes.
Then the following night on the 6th, Jupiter, or excuse me, the near first quarter moon will be right smack above Jupiter. And we have another little object in there, which we call Aldebaran, which is a star. And I think we're going to talk about that in just a moment.
We are. But before we move to talking about Aldebaran, notice how the moon is moving along this green line. Same green line that we showed on that 4-planet chart a little earlier.
Same green line.
Same green line, the moon moves along it, the sun moves along it, all the planets move along that green line, and that green line is basically the plane of the solar system, and we call it
The ecliptic,
the ecliptic. Yes.
because that's where eclipses take place in the sky. But
That's
yes,
right. That's right. Okay. So the moon and Jupiter are going to be really bright on
yes,
February 5th and 6th. They're going to be next to each other in the sky. And this orange looking star here, Aldebaran, just wanted to mention that Aldebaran did you mention how much bigger the sun is than Jupiter, John? What is it, like
mass wise,
80 Jupiters could fit in front of the sun or something like that?
something like a 1048. I happened to look that up.
Okay,
Jupiter's can be stuffed inside the sun,
oh, volume. Okay.
volume wise or
Yes.
mass wise. Yes,
Yes,
but
yes, yes. Okay, but the sun compared to that star that's going to be next to Jupiter
yes,
on the 5th and 6th, Aldebaran, the sun is teeny tiny
yeah.
because Aldebaran is a red giant star. It's a huge star. It's 65 light years away. It's if it were the same distance as Jupiter, we would actually be in its outer layers.
Yeah.
It's so big.
Well, if you get your little ruler handy and measure that diameter of the sun versus the big red Aldebaran, you'll find that Aldebaran is more than 43 times the diameter of the sun. It's big. It's by far
Right.
not the biggest star, but it's pretty big. You can see
Right.
that tonight. So
That's right. And so tonight, February 5th or February 6th, any of those 3 nights,
sure,
great time to look for the moon, very bright Jupiter, and this red star Aldebaran nearby.
exactly.
Let's talk
This
about
one.
Mars.
Yes, yes. If you've been watching us over the past few months, we've been talking about Mars and how it's moving across the sky. Um, Mars is a planet, orbits the sun. So, from our point of view on Earth, it should change positions just a little bit each night. But as time goes on, you can easily notice its change. On the far left-hand side, you can see November 24th. So, right around Thanksgiving, we took a picture of Mars. But what we really need to look at are the 2 stars up there called Castor and Pollux, because the stars really don't change their position with respect to each other, but the planets do with the stars. So you can see Mars kind of marching across the sky. February 2nd, a little bit different position between Castor and Pollux. February 1st, same thing. Mars has moved quite a bit and will continue to do so throughout the month.
So how come those stars are not moving with respect to each other, but Mars is moving with
Well,
respect to those stars?
I might have misspoke, but the stars are moving, but they are so far away that their motions you cannot discern. Even over a lifetime, Castor and Pollux are still going to look just like that. But Mars and the other planets move a little bit each day, and over the days you'll be able to see their change in position. This is one interesting thing to look at the sky over the next weeks, month, 2 months, whatever. You'll see some changes that the planets do make because they are orbiting the sun along with the Earth. So we all change our relative positions.
So Mars near Castor and Pollux, and here's a chart
Right.
showing them near the moon, February 8th and 9th. So tell us about this event, John.
Well, again, we got Mars next to Castor and Pollux, but the moon sometimes is a really handy thing to have to point out some of these things in the sky. The moon's going to be close to Mars. You obviously can't miss the moon. Go up and look at the moon, and you'll see Mars right next to it on these 2 nights. Got to have clear weather. You got to put on a hat because it's going to be pretty cold outside, but you can do it. It's pretty cool.
It's not very cold here, John. I'm in
Oh, it
Austin,
is here.
I went swimming this morning in an outdoor pool. So
Oh no.
it's not cold here at all. It's summer here already. It's kind of scary, actually. Okay, so there's Mars, beautiful
Yeah.
spacecraft, or I don't know if this is a spacecraft image or a Hubble Space Telescope image, but it's a beautiful image of the
Yeah.
planet Mars.
There's something I want to say about Mars.
Okay.
I'd like to briefly show you relative sizes between Earth. We got Earth right there, and we got Mars. So Mars is quite a bit smaller, but the surface area of the land on Earth equals the total surface area of Mars. So you can imagine how big the land is on the Earth. Well, there's a lot of land on Mars too. So there's a lot of, even though Mars is a smaller planet, there's still a lot of surface area, a lot of land to explore. So it's it's an interesting prospect for the future.
It's such an intriguing thought of going to Mars, and I don't know if anyone in our audience has read Red Mars, Green Mars, Blue Mars by Kim Stanley Robinson, but if you haven't, those are 3 really wonderful science fiction books about going to Mars, exploring Mars.
Yeah.
Why are you laughing, John?
Well,
Those
it's a
are
nice
awesome.
plug for him. So, good, good.
He deserves a plug. Those books are awesome. Okay, let's keep going. February 12th, what do we got?
Full moon, February 12th. It's 2 days before Valentine's Day. We call it the full snow moon because of the, at least in the northern hemisphere, mid to upper northern latitudes of the northern hemisphere, we have snow on the ground. So the indigenous peoples often called it the snow moon. But this year, the moon will, of course, will be there, but it'll be right next to a fairly bright star called Regulus, which is the brightest star in Leo.
Right, the heart of the lion.
The heart of the lion. So that's all around that is the constellation Leo. But Regulus will be tough to see simply because the overwhelmingly bright glare of that full moon. If you can place yourself so that the moon is positioned behind a tree branch or utility pole, something like that, to block out the moon, the star should pop into view. It's going to be tough because the moon is bright.
Okay, and notice that green line, that looking edgewise into the plane of the solar system there along that green line, and the moon's still near it.
Yeah, moon is always there. Now we have Regulus next to the green line too, but that's just complete coincidence from its position in space. It is nowhere near the moon in three-dimensional space. It's millions of times farther away. So the green line is the
Vastly
ecliptic.
bigger. Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, now, yay, February 14th, Valentine's Day.
It's funny how it arrives on such a fancy day like that, doesn't it? The goddess of love right there being at its most brilliant. So yeah, but it'll be bright, definitely, any night this month. But if you got your little light meter out there and taking readings of how bright this is, February 14th, it'll be the peak on that. What you might want to try to do, just show how bright it is. Go out and look at it, but stand in front of maybe a white garage door, and you will cast a shadow with Venus light. It's so bright that Venus has enough light to cast a shadow. So it's bright.
And somebody commented a month or so ago when we were doing this same planet live stream for January, talking about the drones, the so-called drones that were seen on the US East Coast, that many people figured out they were actually just looking at planets because there have been so many bright planets in the evening sky. But Venus in particular is one that for decades, if not longer, people have been mistaking for something scary and spooky and eerie in the night sky, especially around the time that it's at greatest brilliancy.
Well, I can sympathize. I understand that because I've been out driving someplace, wherever, and looking up and seeing Venus, and then I know what it is. But then go down the road, make a few turns left, right, up over hill or whatever, and I look up, and it seems to have moved quite a bit. And it's just from a perspective that I'm mistaken about where I am and how I've turned around and all this. Venus really hasn't moved, but I certainly have. So yeah, I can understand why people do mistake it for a moving object, a UFO. So.
It's bright and it looks very eerie. So be sure and watch for Venus. As John said, any night this month, west after sunset, brightest thing up there, you cannot miss it.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
and here's why, by the way, Venus looks so bright now. John, you want to explain this chart?
Well, of course, okay. On this chart, you see the Earth, and the inner elliptical circle object there is Venus as it goes around its orbit, and it's coming from the left, moving over to the right. So right now, where it says inferior conjunction, the diagram right above it is probably where Venus is right now. But it's catching up to the Earth and going to passes, and it's going to do so in mid-March, mid to late March. It passes Earth, so it'll be right where it says inferior conjunction. The arrow points right to it, and then Venus pops up in the morning sky again, a crescent face, but crescent facing the other way, and it'll be bright again, and you'll have its greatest brilliancy again in the morning sky. So you'll hear more about that over the next couple of months.
Definitely. And it's really interesting how if you took a picture of Venus now through a telescope, you would see it as a crescent. So
Oh,
somehow
definitely.
that crescent Venus looks brighter to us
Mhm.
this month than the full Venus that we see when Venus is on the far side of the sun from us, because then, yes, we see the full hemisphere of Venus. That's assuming we can see it at all and the sun's not in the way. But
Mhm.
when we can see it next to the sun in the sky, it doesn't look as bright to us because it's so much tinier, because Venus is really a relatively small planet.
Mhm.
It's about the same size as Earth. Earth
Mhm.
is a relatively small planet also. Okay, but there's more in the west after sunset than just Venus.
Yeah, I look at this chart and I find it a little sad in a way, because we all like Saturn and we've been watching it over the past few months, but Saturn is slowly leaving us. It's coming between, or the sun is coming between the Earth and Saturn. So Saturn is approaching the western sky right after sunset, and really by the end of February, it'll be just above the horizon at sunset. Early March, goodbye Saturn for a while. So, but it's still there.
Yeah, it's still there right now, but then we're gonna, you know,
Yeah,
have Mercury
yeah,
suddenly is going to take Saturn's place in the
yeah.
west after
Saturn leaves,
sunset.
Mercury arrives,
Right.
and the thing about Mercury is it's not visible all the time for very long. It's just for a couple weeks, maybe less than that, you'll be able to see it. And as a result, a lot of scientists, a lot of astronomers, professional astronomers, have never seen Mercury, because you got to be outside at the right time. And if you go out hour and a half after sunset, you're going to miss it. If you go out a little bit right after sunset, it'll still be too bright and you won't see it. So things got to be just right to spot it. But when you do, you can't miss it. You'll think, oh, yeah, there is a bright star-like object there, Mercury.
Yeah, and I think it's easier to see from my latitude, John, in the southern US than from your latitude in Virginia,
Hmm.
because we see Mercury pretty often. Like
Hmm.
I don't have the same sense that many people do, that it's elusive and hard to see and all that kind of thing.
Sure.
We see it well and see it pretty often. So it
Well, the
is
closer you live to the equator, to our equator, it's easier to see.
right. So will there ever be a time when you can see all of these planets at the same time?
All the planets we have talked about tonight, yes. Saturn will be right next to the horizon, right at the end of February. Saturn will be right next to the horizon. Mercury will be little bit above it, maybe. And of course, Venus. I think the dot there is the moon for some time, and then Jupiter and Mars are going to be on there as well. So it's easy to see those. There are other planets. There's Uranus and Neptune, which you need a telescope, or you have to know exactly what you're looking at to see these things. But you'll be able to see these. Well, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 planets right at the end of February, first
Plus,
day of March, something
plus
like that.
Uranus and Neptune if you have a telescope. So that would be 7.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that's if you can see Mercury and Saturn together. So that's going to be a tough observation. It's not going to be easy to catch those two.
It is. You have two things going against you, that both Mercury and Saturn are low in the bright western twilight. So you got to overcome that bright sky to see these things. And being so low, they're going to be dimmed by our own atmosphere, just because that's what it does. Our thick atmosphere dims down, obviously, when it's very close to the horizon. So you might be able to see them. With binoculars, you might be able to see them. Got to have clear skies.
Okay. So good luck to everybody who wants to see the 7 planets. You would need a telescope to see Uranus and Neptune. You're going to be just, seeing Mercury and Saturn is just going to be a matter of having a really clear western sky after sunset right there at the end of February. And also, just kind of the luck of when you get out there and happen to
Oh.
see it not too close to the sunset, but not far enough that they've already set. So good luck on that to everybody who's trying to see all 7 planets.
Well, I think that the point is that head outside and see what you can find. You aren't going to see it unless you
Absolutely.
try. So it's
Absolutely.
interesting stuff out there.
Absolutely. That is so true. So, John, thank you. And thank you to everybody who has watched. For updates, come to earthsky.org. We've got a great article over there, our night sky guide, that John and I both work on, and several other people at EarthSky also work on. And we change that article every day and put the stuff that you can see that night at the top of the article. So there are charts and information and lots more. So come to earthsky.org to our tonight section and look for our night sky guide. And please don't forget to hit share, like, and subscribe. We're almost at 50,000 subscribers. We're so exciting. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed. I'm Deborah Byrd.
And I'm John Goss.
One Earth, one sky, EarthSky.